Alright, Ji. This is the introduction of about audit and assurance, which is paper F8 in ACCA, audit and assurance. I'm giving a short introduction about what do you mean by the term audit and what do you mean by the term assurance. There is a paper in ACCA which is F8, which is so much important because when the student will go to the firm after qualifying or at least completion after their part 2, so they will, if they will join the audit firm, they'll need to practice in the field of audit and assurance. And audit and assurance is something which calls basic accountancy knowledge from your paper F3, F2 and F1. And if you are done with your paper F7, that's well and good. That's much more better than audit is something different, assurance is something different. Both are at the same categories, but still there is some difference. First of all, we need to understand the term assurance. First of all, you need to understand the term assurance. What do you mean by the term assurance? Assurance is basically the thing which is the satisfaction level which one party gives to another party. For example, I'm a neutral person. Mr. A is my friend. Mr. A is my friend. He is purchasing from Mr. B. Mr. A is the customer. Mr. B is the supplier. And they are purchasing, for example, a second-hand laptop. I'm using the word second-hand because in order to understand the things, they are basically trading this for the second-hand laptop. Now, Mr. A, for example, Mr. A is having a lack of knowledge about the IT and the computers and the laptop configurations. So Mr. A is my friend, or don't say he's a friend. I'm a neutral person. Mr. A anyhow contacted me, Haris, Honey. Mr. A contacted me, Haris, Honey. He contacted me and he wants some assurance whether I need to purchase this laptop or not. So what I will do, I will gonna inspect its laptop. I will check the configurations. I will check the speed of the Windows, RAM, ROM, memory, camera quality, each and everything, Wi-Fi support. I will need to inspect its configurations. When I will inspect this configuration, first of all, I'll be assured by myself whether this laptop is good enough or whether it is not good enough. Then I will provide the same level of satisfaction to Mr. A, that Mr. A, as per, I'm not giving the guarantee. Bear in mind, I'm not giving the guarantee. I'm just giving the assurance that in my opinion, number one, the laptop is good, or in my opinion, the laptop is not good. Now, when Mr. A will listen to me, the third person, the neutral personality, the neutral person who is not there to sell, who is not there to purchasing, he is a neutral personality, an independent person. So Haris Hanif will give the satisfaction level to Mr. A. Then Mr. A will be able to decide whether he will purchasing or he will not be purchasing. Assurance is something which is a satisfaction level which one party gives to the second party in order to increase his confidence for the purpose of decision making. This is called the assurance. Now, what do you mean by the term assurance? We can safely write like that. Assurance it's a satisfaction which one party gives to another party to facilitate his decision making. To facilitate his what? Decision making. This is called assurance. Now, in the assurance engagement, and this is called the engagement, huh? This is called the engagement between Mr. A and Haris Hanif, which is the neutral personality. It has got 5 elements. Assurance, in assurance, there are 5 elements. In assurance, there are what? There are 5 elements. Number one, 3 parties. Number one, 3 parties. Number one, 3 parties. Now you can safely catch that example. There are 3 parties I'm going to highlight. Number one, Mr. A. Number two, Mr. B. And number three, me, Haris Hanif. Who needs satisfaction? Who needs satisfaction? Mr. A, Mr. B, or Haris? The answer is obviously Mr. A needs satisfaction level. So Mr. A is the first party, which is intended user. Who is intended user? One who needs assurance. Number two is the responsible party. Responsible party. Responsible party is the party whose work is under assessment, because previously he was there to manage and handle the laptop and its configurations and its performance. So Mr. B is the party whose work is under assessment. Whose work is under assessment. And number three is the practitioner. Now, who is the practitioner? The practitioner is the one who provides the satisfaction level. Practitioner is the one who checks the thing which is going to be examined. Now, there's a technical word which is the second element. Mr. Practitioner is the person, is the party who provides satisfaction to the intended user. Party who gives assurance. To the intended user. Now, in every assurance engagement, there are 5 elements. We have studied number one. Number two is the subject matter. Now, what do you mean by the term subject matter? Subject matter is any just for example, we are giving assurance on laptop. Laptop is a subject matter. Any data which is being assessed by the practitioner, any data which is being assessed by the practitioner, and practitioner assesses that data, this is called the subject matter. What is subject matter? Subject matter, the data which is under assessment. The data which is under assessment by the practitioner. The data which is under assessment by the practitioner. This is called the subject matter. Number three. Now, in my class, I usually give the time to the students, obviously, in order to write in their registers. Number three. Number three, criteria. Number three, criteria. What was number one? 3 parties. Number two, subject matter. And number three is the criteria. Now, what do you mean by criteria? For example, if I will say that we are going to assess the financial statements. So if I am the inspector of financial statements, technically called the auditor, if I will inspect the financial statements, I will assess the financial statements against some KPIs. KPI means key performance indicator. And the key performance indicator of the financial statements are IAS and IFRS. IAS and IFRS, International Accounting and Reporting Standards, Financial Reporting Standards, and Accounting Standards. Now, this is called the criteria. The criteria is the set and prescribed standards against which the performance is actually measured. So, this is the performance measurement parameters and the performance measurement criteria standards, KPIs are called the criteria. Now, for example, if I'm going to assess the laptop, I will use 3 to 4 major criteria. Number one, it's Outlook, obviously. Number two, the Windows speed, RAM speed, and the hard drive, and obviously the processor speed. These are 5 to 6 things which we normally take as a criteria in order to assess the performance of the laptop. So how can we define the criteria? This is called the setted and prescribed standards against which the performance is compared. Against which the performance is not compared. This is not the performance comparison. We can use another more appropriate word: setted and prescribed standards against which the subject matter is being assessed. This is called the criteria. Number 4, evidence. Now, what do you mean by the term evidence? Obviously, evidence are the proof of the subject matter. Whatever the practitioner will do, this will be called the assurance procedure. For example, I will check the RAM. This is my one procedure. I will check the hard drive. This is my second procedure. I will check the Windows and its installed software. This is the third procedure. When I will apply some procedures, assurance procedures, later it will be called the audit procedures. When I will apply the audit procedures or assurance procedure, I will receive some evidence. So what is this? This is called receiving evidences. Receiving evidences after applying some relevant procedures. Keep one thing in mind. Evidence should be sufficient and appropriate. Sufficient means quantity. The practitioner should not, for example, if I'm checking the car, I should not drive it and assess it. The car is very good. I should check the engine quality. I should check the brakes, gears, there are a lot of things. So we need to apply a sufficient procedure. Sufficient evidences should be collected. And number 2, it should be appropriate. Appropriate means quality. For example, do not rely on the oral words, just rely on the written words. This is much more qualitative. This is much more appropriate evidence. Do not appropriate. One more example of the quality: do not rely on the photocopies, just rely on the original document. This is the appropriate and the quality evidence. Number 5, obviously, this is the world of our professionals, and we often need a report to be submitted to the intended user. Now the intended user will need the assurance. The intended user will need the assurance in a written form. So the practitioner will prepare the report. The practitioner will prepare the report in which there is an opinion of the practitioner, and the practitioner will gonna report to the intended user. So number 5th element is the assurance report. Number 5th element is the assurance report. What is the assurance report? This is the report by practitioner containing his opinion which is being addressed to the intended user. Now, this is what the assurance report. Examples of assurance. What do you mean by the term example of assurance? What are the things the assurance can be given? The answer is assurance can be given on anything. Assurance can be given on anything or any subject matter. Now, what do you mean by the term any subject matter? Assurance is the term which is given on anything. Anything means, for example, uh, assurance on laptop. It's a very basic and common example. We are moving towards a more professional examples. Assurance on laptop. For example, I own the business, and there is a branch of mine. I own the business and there is a manager. I have a doubt that my manager is not maintaining the system and controls as I designed. I was just assuming, or somebody reported to me that Mr. A, who is your branch manager, he's breaching the internal controls and overriding the system which you designed. I just got the doubt. I just sent the neutral party over there to just go and observe the control environment and just assess the controls. Now the third party will go over there and the third party will check the controls and report back to me. Assurance on internal controls. Assurance on what? On internal controls. Assurance on internal controls. Very good. One more thing, very good. Internal controls is also a thing which needs assurance. Okay. Another thing, assurance can be given on. Now we are moving towards another example. For example, there is a factory, there is a chemical factory who is polluting the environment, and there is a law, that you can produce at least 4% pollution in the country, and government has some doubt that you are producing more and more pollution as per the requirement. So the government may appoint an independent firm to just check the environmental and pollution level. So which is called assurance on environmental matters. Assurance on environmental matters. This can also be the case. And one more example, assurance on. Then we will wind up this introduction of the audit and assurance. There is a company which is being financed by the shareholders. There is a management which is called board of directors. They are running and governing and managing the company. Now shareholders want satisfaction whether the board of directors have prepared the accounts in a true and fair manner as per the applicable accounting standards. So shareholders appoints Mr. A, Mr. B, or the group of people which is called the audit team. Now the assurance will be given on financial statements. When I will say financial statements, it is presumed that it is annual financial statements. It's called annual financial statements. Assurance on annual financial statements, which is technically called the audit. Which is technically called what? External audit. Which means assurance can be given on anything. If that thing is the financial statements, then it is technically called what? Audit. So basically, in a layman language, we can say audit is the assurance on annual financial statements. Now there is a technical terminology, there is a technical definition by ISA, International Standards on Auditing, which we will gonna study later in the chapter. So which means assurance is a broad term which can be given on anything. If that thing is the annual financial statements, that is technically termed as audit. So we can say audit is the part of assurance. Audit is a part of assurance. Audit is a part of assurance. Now in our paper F8, we have got 98 till 99% course of auditing, and 1 to 2%, or we can say 2 to 2.5% courses on the assurance, because there will be a review engagement, there will be some other things which is other than auditing. So the major focus of the F8 syllabus is on the auditing. And we have got the international standards. I'm just studying the short name IAS and IFRS, which is used to prepare the financial statements. There is ISA, which is used for the auditing. Which is used for what? Auditing. So whatever will be the auditing standards will guide us. We're gonna audit in order to assess the financial statements. That's it. Thank you very much.